Hello, my dear friends, and welcome. I'm really happy you are here with me today. My name is Emily, and I am a flight attendant. I have been working in this profession for 7 years, and during this time, I have seen many countries, many faces, and lived through many unforgettable moments in the sky. Today, I would like to share with you a very special experience, a complete day in my life as a flight attendant. But before I begin telling you about my day, I want to share something very important with you, especially if you are learning English. One of the best ways to improve your English is through listening. When you listen carefully, your brain starts to recognize words, phrases, and expressions in real-life situations. You also learn the correct pronunciation and natural rhythm of the language. So while you listen to my story, pay attention to how I use the words. Repeat some of them in your head or even out loud. Try to imagine yourself in my place, speaking these sentences. Believe me, this habit will make your English better, faster, and more natural. Now, let's start my day. The day begins very early for me. My alarm goes off at 4 o'clock in the morning. The world outside is still dark and silent, but I have no time to waste. I get out of bed, take a quick shower, and put on my uniform. My uniform is neat and elegant, a dark blue jacket, a white blouse, and a red scarf tied neatly around my neck. I check my hair and makeup carefully because, as a flight attendant, I must always look professional and fresh no matter how tired I feel. By 5 o'clock, I am already in a taxi on my way to the airport. The city streets are almost empty, and I use this quiet time to review the schedule of my flights for today. It will be a long day. First, a short flight from Cairo to Istanbul, then from Istanbul to London, and finally back to Cairo in the evening. 3 flights in one day. It is going to be exhausting, but also exciting. When I arrive at the airport, I walk quickly to the crew entrance. I swipe my ID card and pass through security. The security check is always the same. I put my bag on the scanner, walk through the detector, and greet the officers politely. After that, I head to the crew lounge where my colleagues are waiting. "Good morning, Emily," says Sarah, another flight attendant who will be working with me today. She looks as sleepy as I feel, but her smile is warm. "Good morning, Sarah," I reply. "Are you ready for Istanbul?" She laughs softly, as ready as I can be at this hour. Inside the lounge, we have a short briefing with the captain and the rest of the crew. The captain introduces himself and talks about the flight, the weather conditions, the expected flight time, and any special notes we should know. Today, the weather looks fine, but there might be some turbulence over the Mediterranean Sea. We all nod seriously because safety is always our #1 priority. The briefing, we walk together to the aircraft. The plane is quiet and empty, waiting for the passengers to arrive. But before they do, we have a lot of work to complete. First, we check the emergency equipment: fire extinguishers, oxygen bottles, life vests, and medical kits. Everything must be in the right place and in perfect condition. Then we prepare the cabin. I walk down the aisle, making sure the seats are clean, the seat belts are placed neatly, and the overhead bins are empty. I check the lavatories too. Cleanliness is very important for passenger comfort. When everything is ready, we take our positions near the doors. Soon, the passengers begin to board. Families with children, business travelers with laptops, tourists with big smiles. All of them come inside, carrying their bags and hopes for the journey ahead. "Good morning, welcome on board," I say with a friendly smile to each passenger. My voice must always be warm and calm, because many people feel nervous about flying. A kind word can make a big difference. One little boy looks at me with wide eyes and whispers to his mother, "Mom, she looks like a superhero." I laugh softly and kneel down to his level. "Don't worry, young man, we will take good care of you today." His mother smiles gratefully. When boarding is complete, we close the doors and prepare for takeoff. I demonstrate the safety instructions with clear gestures: how to fasten the seatbelt, how to use the oxygen mask, where the emergency exits are. Some passengers watch carefully, while others ignore me, reading magazines or scrolling on their phones. But still, I do it with full attention because it could save lives one day. The engines roar, the plane accelerates, and soon we are in the air. I feel the familiar sensation in my stomach as the plane leaves the ground. Flying never becomes boring. Each takeoff still feels like magic. After we reach cruising altitude, we begin our service. Together with Sarah and the rest of the team, I push the food cart down the aisle. "Would you like tea or coffee, chicken or pasta?" I ask politely. Some passengers are cheerful and friendly, others are tired and quiet, but I treat each one with the same respect. Halfway through the flight, turbulence begins. The plane shakes slightly, and I quickly secure the food cart. I walk down the aisle, checking that everyone's seatbelt is fastened. A young woman looks very nervous, her hands trembling. I kneel beside her seat and say gently, "It's okay, this is just a little turbulence, perfectly normal, you are safe." She nods, and I stay by her side for a few moments until she feels calmer. Finally, after about 2 hours, we begin our descent into Istanbul. The city below looks beautiful, with the Bosphorus shining in the morning sun. We land smoothly, and the passengers clap their hands in relief. "Thank you, have a nice day," I say as they leave the plane. But for me, the day is just beginning. As soon as the cabin is empty, we clean up quickly, restock supplies, and prepare for the next group of passengers. I barely have time to drink some water and take a deep breath before the boarding for the London flight begins. This next flight will be longer, about 4 hours. The cabin fills with people again, some speaking Turkish, some English, some Arabic. I love hearing all these languages around me. It makes me feel like the world is small and we are all connected by the skies. The first flight ended and all passengers left. I walked down the aisle once more, checking every seat pocket, every overhead bin, and every corner. We always make sure nothing dangerous or forgotten is left behind. Sometimes I find a book, a child's toy, or even a passport. Today, I found only an empty water bottle, which I threw away. "Quick turnaround today," our chief purser reminded us. "Next flight boarding in 40 minutes. That meant we had only a short break. I stretched my legs, drank water, and quickly grabbed a cup of coffee from the galley. The aroma gave me a small boost of energy because I knew the day was far from over. Soon, passengers for the next flight began to board. This time, the route was longer, 3 hours instead of 1. The crowd looked different. Families with small children, tourists with heavy backpacks, and a few business travelers still typing on their laptops as they walked in. I smiled and greeted them, one by one. "Welcome on board. Seat 12A is just down this aisle." "Good afternoon, sir. May I see your boarding pass?" "Hello there, sweetheart," I said to a little girl holding a stuffed bear. She smiled shyly and hid behind her mother. As the cabin filled, I helped people find space for their bags. Sometimes it's like solving a puzzle, arranging luggage in overhead compartments. One man insisted on keeping a huge backpack under his seat. "Sir, for safety, it must go up," I explained politely. After a short hesitation, he agreed, and I lifted it up with the help of another passenger. Once everyone was seated, we repeated the safety demonstration. I could almost do it in my sleep, but I always try to add a warm smile because many passengers actually watch our faces more than our gestures. When the plane took off, I noticed a nervous passenger gripping the armrest tightly. His knuckles turned white. I knelt beside him and whispered, "It's all right, sir. Take a deep breath. Flying is very safe." He nodded, though he didn't let go until we were high above the clouds. Moments like this remind me that a small word of comfort can make a huge difference. During the flight, service kept us busy. Passengers asked for drinks, blankets, or headphones. A child spilled juice on the seat, and I hurried with napkins to clean it. A woman needed help filling out an arrival card, so I guided her through the form. At times, I felt like a waitress, a nurse, a teacher, and a problem solver. After hours of walking back and forth in the narrow aisle, my feet began to ache, but I kept smiling because passengers don't see the tiredness. They see our faces, our voices, our care. Finally, we landed at the second destination. Passengers applauded lightly when the wheels touched down, something that still makes me smile. After disembarkation, we prepared again for another flight. By now, I felt the weight of the long day, but I reminded myself, "Stay strong, Emily. One more to go." The last flight of the day was the most challenging. It was full, every seat taken. People were impatient because it was evening and everyone wanted to get home. Some argued over overhead bin space, others complained about their seats. I had to stay calm, use polite words, and keep order. "Sir, please let me help you. I'll find space for your bag." "Ma'am, I understand, but the flight is completely full tonight." "Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats so we can depart on time." Despite the tension, there were also sweet moments. An elderly couple held hands throughout the flight, smiling at each other. A young boy asked me, "Do you fly every day?" I laughed and said, "Almost, but I still love the sky." His eyes sparkled as if he had just met a superhero. During meal service, I carefully balanced trays, making sure everyone received their choice. Some passengers thanked me warmly. "You work so hard, thank you." Those simple words felt like small treasures in my heart. Halfway through the flight, turbulence shook the plane. The seatbelt signs flashed. I quickly secured the galley and walked down the aisle, checking passengers. Some looked frightened, others calm. "Please remain seated with your seatbelts fastened," I repeated gently. Even though I also felt a bit nervous, I knew my calmness was their comfort. When the turbulence passed, relief filled the cabin. Laughter returned, conversations resumed, and the baby who had been crying finally fell asleep in his mother's arms. By the time we landed from the last flight, my body was exhausted. My smile had grown thinner, but it was still there. I helped passengers leave, said countless goodbye and take care, and finally stepped off the plane. The airport lights were bright, but my energy was fading. With the crew, I walked through long corridors until we reached the shuttle bus that would take us to the hotel. Everyone was silent, too tired to talk. Only the sound of wheels rolling on the floor followed us. At the hotel, I opened the door to my room and let out a long sigh. My feet ached, my back was sore, but my heart was full. I looked at myself in the mirror. My makeup was faded, my hair slightly messy, but my eyes were shining with pride. I changed into comfortable clothes, sat on the bed, and wrote a few notes in my journal. I often do this to reflect on my day. Tonight, I wrote, "Tired but grateful." I met people from different countries, comforted nervous passengers, solved problems, and made small differences. This is why I love my job. Before turning off the lights, I thought of the advice I gave earlier about listening to English every day. It is exactly like my work. Small steps, repeated daily, create big progress. Just as each flight is part of a bigger journey, each moment of listening builds your language skill. With that thought, I closed my eyes, letting the quiet of the hotel room replace the noise of the airplane cabin. My day as a flight attendant had ended, but tomorrow a new adventure would begin again. Good night,